Go over that first. Okay, I sent everybody an email on CIS 280 for the spring semester. Early registration started, and it does have some prereqs to it. So I generally don't get any early registration for spring on anything usually. I got one or two classes I had early registration started, but it does have a prereq for you need to have a 180 or 276. If you have any programming experience, though, those prereqs can be waived and will be waived. And I want to fill the class this spring semester. You do get an iPad, a loaner iPad for the semester with the course. It's an iPad mini. You start developing apps week 1. And let me bring up the actual information here real quick on the site. So, 27,000 jobs currently. That was last semester. I did a Google search last weekend. It's actually 43,000 within the continental U.S. iOS developers. That's pretty cool. 1 million apps. You guys knew that. 40 billion apps downloaded. CIS 280 is the call letters of the class. Seats. I've got about 10 students saying they said they're planning on registering on the 11th. We still have 10 more seats beyond that we can fill. New topics for the spring semester. Robotics programming with iOS. There's a link on the email I sent you guys for current and past apps that students are creating. These are pretty cool ideas actually for this semester. I'll click on that. Last semester they had some pretty cool ideas, but this one they have good ones as well. There's a picture of the students getting their iPads this semester. But let me show you some of the app list this semester. Fall 2013, we have an app called Midwest Fishing, USGS live streaming data. Josh Gavlinski actually works for the city of Rockford as a web developer, and he has a lot of USGS data, and he's creating an iOS app that's actually monstrous right now. It's 30 pages, I believe, of just app data that he's developed so far. The other one's Wedding Sync, a social app to sync up your friends and family to an upcoming wedding. 4 students are in that one. Customer Orders, an app to organize orders for my job. This gentleman works at Menards, and it's an app Menards is going to be using starting next semester. Retirement Income, 2 students working on this. My retirement income will calculate total monthly retirement income from multiple sources. And I've helped him here recently to get an API to where they can determine wherever you're at geolocation-wise, it can determine within a 50-mile radius all the API rates for mortgage at any minute and from any location. Gaga 411, yes, they can create fun games and apps as well. Gaga 4 or senseless ones. Gaga 411 application on all things Lady Gaga. Facebook recipe organizer. The Facebook, yeah. She's had Mac problems all semester. Yeah, she's had Mac problems all semester. I'm trying to help her on hers, but yeah. My dash cam records routes, times, and accidents, and real-time streaming. And so that's for the fall. And so students come up with their list of final apps. They can work individually or in groups. In week 2, they come up with a final app idea and can begin working on a final app in week 4. And so in here is all the course requirements, basically for the spring 2014. A CIS 2 or 180 or 276 or programming experience can be waived with that. You do get an iPad mini loaned out for the semester to test your apps starting in week 1. So even if you have an iPad already, I want you to use this one just to kind of junk this one up and not yours. Can I take this class if I haven't completed 180 or 276? Yes, you can. In fact, half the students this semester have not completed those 2 classes and are doing fine. We do teach in that class Objective-C, which is real close to C++, real close to Java as far as syntax goes. But I teach you basically project by project what you need to know for that project. It's not an exhaustive Objective-C class per se. It's really just teaching you how to create mobile apps quickly. No textbook. There's a PDF textbook we use, multiple online resources. You will get an iOS development resource from Apple. It's a $99 item for free as a student. We also use GitHub for source control, and we try to go to one location each semester that's Apple related. This semester we're going to the Apple Store on the 16th and meeting in the business. There's a business level, 4th level of the Apple Store on Michigan Avenue. It's for business briefing room is what it's called. It's got this humongous table, like from here to the end of the room, and it's about 5 foot, 6 foot wide, mahogany table, and it has these really cool leather chairs all around it. And then what I like the best of this whole room is when you look over towards Michigan Avenue, it's got a garden on top of the roof that you can't see unless you're up there in the room. And because I grew up on a farm, my mom was a big gardener. So, but anyways, it's just a beautiful garden out there in the middle of Michigan Avenue. And so anyway, we're going there. And so next semester, I'm not figured out where we're going to go yet, but I do encourage you to go, even if you've registered for the course. It is a fun course. You do learn mobile development, if nothing else, to create your own apps. A mediocre app on the App Store that's mediocre successful, 68 grand a year for mediocre app. I'm talking an app that you've seen that you're like, you download it and go, I hate this app, 68,000 for those apps. So think about it. If you have any questions, let me know. Starts spring 2014. This week, question? Do I know? No, yeah, but I'm telling them they have to sign a paper going through the class. You know, I'm the one that helped them get started, but no. No, we do have 3 students from last semester. They just got their business LLC. They are in the process of submitting their Bubble Baller app, and they say by Christmas time they should have version 1 out. So it's underwater basketball, basically, is what it is. All right, so let's jump to what we're doing this week. Final presentation stuff coming up, final website stuff coming up. I think this week we're covering image galleries, if I'm not mistaken. Got a chance to look at everybody's stuff last night up to that point. If you hadn't submitted it yet, that's fine. It's not technically due till tonight. But image galleries you're going to go over to tonight. Starting next week, week 12, you begin working on your final site. Week 13, you work on your final site. Week 14, you work on your final site. So week 12, 13, optional attendance for those 2 nights. I will be here both nights. I'll bring in my textbooks, some other resources to help you. You can take them home with you. If you need code examples, I'll give those to you. Now, technically, you don't have to come to class those 2 nights. If you need examples, you can just email me and I'll give you examples. You don't have to come to class for those 2 nights. But on week 14, I do need everyone to come. In fact, I'm going to encourage the 3 online students we have to be here that night as well, just to check off that they have everything. If they can't make it, no big deal. But you guys, I definitely need to make it to that one. If you can't make it for whatever reason, I've already emailed you guys all about that. Just let me know, and I can email you the steps to make sure you've got everything. So week 11, I believe we began looking at the final recommendations for the site first, final site recommendations. It's not real difficult as far as requirements go. It's a pretty basic PHP list, of laundry list of stuff that we've covered this semester. And the reason I don't make it as difficult of list is I want you to have flexibility on the type of app you want to create. So Rock 7 was the actual reference for this week for manipulation of data. But I do have it here. I'm going to skip down into the final requirements, which I believe is not till week 12. But I want to jump ahead. I want to jump ahead to week 12 because I want to look at the final site requirements because you'll be starting that next week. Because starting next week, there's nothing due each week. It's just starting to work. So here's the requirements. Are you ready? Okay. Database is a requirement. Now, I don't tell you how many tables you need. I just want a working database, something It could be a authentication database. It could be a guestbook database. Doesn't really matter. As long as it's a database, it's functional. Tables with data, which goes with database. User interaction with data, again, login, profile or profiles, message board, whatever. An image page of whatever image page you want. You can use what you're learning this week on image galleries and using a prepackaged image gallery, which I recommend. Many of them out there. We'll play with one of them tonight. I don't recommend building your own image gallery because there's tons of them out there that are open source and free to use, and so you might as well use them, and they're updated all the time. And so if you don't want to use a prefabbed PHP gallery, I have had students in the past use a Flickr gallery, whatever, it doesn't matter, whatever you want to do for an image gallery. Now, there's a caveat on this one, image gallery or image page. There might be some of your modules you're creating for your site, if it's a business app or whatever, that you're not going to need an image. You're not going to need it. You're not going to need the images at all. Just let me know tonight before you leave. Not going to need images. Not going to happen. No big deal. Make sense? So if you don't need them, you don't need them. But that's part of the laundry list here. So if you're making a personal site, definitely I would recommend image page. Validation of some type on the site, whether it be form validation, submitting a file, username, password, email, whatever, some type of validation. Message board, again, that one is opened up for the type of site you're going to do. You might not need a message board. That's one of them. If you're not doing a unique business site, I recommend a message board for your page, because I will ask you if you say you don't need a message board. If you say it's a personal site, I'm going to say you need a message board. But if it's not a personal site, if it's a business site that you just need a unique module or something that sometimes students will create each semester, you don't need that. Same with user personalization. If it's a personal site, some type of personalization they can do. Now that could be personalization, could be stored in a cookie for when they come back. There's certain preferences or certain pages that they're on, and you've all been to sites like that where you come back to a domain and it remembers the last page you were at, and that's the first page you go to when you go to that site, and redirects you to that page. Something like that, you can do that and make the cookie last for 30 days or whatever. That's an idea. Some type of personalization could also be like we did in week 10, where you got to change the themes with CSS. You could go as elaborate as that, or as simple as a cookie. Questions on the required stuff for your final presentation, your final website. Pretty simple. I know some of you already began on the logic on it and stuff, so yes.
Does it have to be uploaded onto the
external?
Yeah.
Nada. That was the next thing I was going to go over.
Okay.
And I think I had that the last week. But I won't go there, but it's there. It's there already. On the very last week, when you do the presentation, you've got to submit to me on that last week either the URL of the external, or just tell me in the submission. In fact, I believe I just tell you to submit localhost or something like that. Let me go forward a little bit on that. Okay, let's jump ahead all the way to the very end. Good question. Submit the final site code and URL for week 16, but I believe I have it back further than that. Let me see. It might be week 15 where you actually submit the yeah, it's going to be on that week. You'll basically submit. The final site will be either the URL, or I'll have you submit like a text that says localhost or something like that. That way you bring your laptop in, we connect to the overhead, or you give me your code and I'll run on mine. More than likely, most students in this class will bring their own laptop and just plug it into the overhead and present it that way. Done. Localhost, yeah. And so, that answer your question?
Yep.
Cool. Any other question on the final site?
So no shiny PowerPoint.
Do I know? No, you're just showing us the site, going over, challenges, successes, what you had done. What would you do if you had another, 6 months to work on it? What's some cool stuff you do to it? So let's real quick before we get into tonight's stuff. Next week, you begin working on it, which is week 12 and week 13. Those 2 weeks are optional, and I'll email you and remind you coming next Monday or Sunday night. But just to make note of our calendar, weeks 12 and 13 is optional. So if you want to work on it at home, there's no sense in coming on campus if you can work on it at home. But if you do have questions or you have an example you need, shoot me an email and I'll reply back with you an example. There are tons of examples starting in week 12 and 13. There's a folder in each one of the weeks or a link that goes to a whole bunch of final examples that you can pull from as far as code that you can download and play with. So recommend that. Then week 14, I'll remind you on week 13 towards the end there, I'll email everybody that I need to check your site just to make sure you're good to go for week 15. That doesn't needs to be complete on week 14. It just means that you're ready, you know what you need to do before you're done, before week 15 comes up. And it might be that you come to week 15 and something's still not working. That's fine. Still come to class, present what is working, and say, I almost got this working, but this, and this could get figured out. I'm going to keep working on it. Something like that. Okay? All right, cool. So let's go ahead and go over image galleries tonight. Now, I did put in the image galleries a whole bunch of different types of image galleries to choose from. And in the rocks text, I believe it's chapter 7, goes over manipulating, creating images with PHP. That's a good reference probably for images, anything images in general with PHP. No in-class lab tonight. We're going to go right into the experiment gallery. You're going to experiment with the image gallery this week, and you'll click on this link, extract it, make sure your username, password, and database stuff is correct in your phpMyAdmin, matches the con file, as always, the con.php file. When you download the download gallery, it basically has you dump it in a folder on your server, your local host. When you launch it, it asks you for your database name, it asks you for your password, all the stuff here it asks for. I'm highlighted on the overhead. So it asks for, local host, cconcle, techno77, database name, cconcle. And these are always popular on prepackaged databases with PHP, is a DB prefix. It'll put an underscore gal in front of all the tables that are created. That way you could create multiple instances in the same database. Once it's set up, then you'll browse out to week 11 folder, enter in your database information. Once this is successful, you'll be prompted to enter password and email. Once this is successful, you'll see the site and begin uploading photos. If your setup messes up, just delete the folder, the var folder that created during the setup, and try it all over again, because that's where it puts all the temporary setup files in the var folder. Yeah, exactly. Do I know? Yes. Now here's some other galleries besides the one we're going to use that I have used in the past that work pretty good. Tiny Web Gallery, Build Your Own Gallery, Uber Gallery, D-Album, and Plogger. Once you do the initial setup of the one I have you do, the gallery one that I have you do, which I'll show you in a second, you'll create your own icon using Pixlr.com, which is a free online kind of Photoshop app. You'll change the gallery title and upload some photos, and then basically submit your week 11 homework, as always, as a zip file. And do not worry about this week external upload at all. Don't worry about it. In fact, in the exam, in the submission, I just tell you, submit to me your attached file only this week. That would be great. I don't need a homework URL this week. Just the local host only. Just play with it on that will be great. It doesn't mean you don't have to do it. You don't. If you want to put it on external, you may do so. It would be good practice to do that. But I'm not requiring it because I'd really like you to begin thinking about, once you get this little image gallery created and it's working, is start working on your final site this week and start tailoring together, on a piece of paper or something.
Can I just send you the link?
Do I know?
Can I just send you the link?
The link to your gallery?
It's already done.
Oh yeah. It doesn't take 2 seconds to create.
Yeah.
Let me show you what it entails real quick. I mean, seriously, really quick and simple. I'm downloading the zip file from that, week 11. And it's a whopping 1.73 megabytes. So hopefully it won't take too long.
29K right now, Steve.
29? Okay, woo.
It's gonna take a while. Another one.
Oh, it finally did. It did. It downloaded.
Another one to add to your list.
It's deceiving. I think it's deceiving on the RBC network tonight. Okay, if you see on the overhead, I extracted all those files. This is what you get when you extract it. Can you guess what file it's going to hit when you load week 11? Index, right. Index.php is what's going to be loaded. So I'm going to go and copy the entire folder contents there for week 11. I'll just show you how simple this is. I'm going to move it into my XAMPP directory. And let's go this way, collapse that. There we go. And so let's go to XAMPP files, htdocs, and let me put it in class folder. Yeah, I'll put it in class folder. And let's get rid of this one. Put that one in there. And I'm going to use cconcle. That's the database I know is set up already. And let me start XAMPP up. So it literally took a couple minutes to get that downloaded and extracted. And I am recording this as well. Let's see. There we go. So I've got XAMPP started. I extracted the week 11. I'm going to go out to my local host. There it is. It says, let's get going. Gallery. Installing gallery is easy. We need to just place to put your photos and info about your MySQL database. We're having trouble creating a place on your photos. Can you help? We need to create a directory called var in the gallery 3 directory. This sample code works for most users. Run it in gallery 3. So it says here to make a directory called var and cmod it to all rights. And so what I'm going to do here in the Macs, you have to do this a lot. Windows not so much, but sometimes in the Macs, we've got to set rights to this week 11 here. So I'm going to right click on week 11, go to get info. And right now, my username for my Mac is read write only, but everything else is read only. I'm going to change everything to read write for that folder. And I'm going to make sure and save it. And I also want to click on this one. It says applied and closed items, where we're going to be everything downstream. Any subfolders will have read and write access as well. And I'll even do it on mine just to make sure, but it should already be there for mine. Okay, so I've got all rights and privileges to that folder. If it still doesn't let me, I'll create that var folder, but we'll find out. There we go, now we're good. So I give read write capabilities to all in that folder that I put week 11 in, week 11 folder. So we found a place to store your photos. There it is, XAMPP, htdocs, class, week 11, var. Database name, put cconcle user, cconcle password 77, local host, and I'm going to go ahead and put in here an underscore GALL. Continue. Let's see. Let me see what my username password is. Let's see what I got here in PHP My Admin. Maybe I got rid of my cconcle. Cconcle. Oh, you know what? I think the password's cconcle. And see, I already have some GALs in here. I'm going to put GALL just so I can add a separate one, another one in there. So GALL, I think it's cconcle for password. If not, I'll create a new database. There we go. Before you start using it, we've created an account for you. Admin is the username, and I'm going to go ahead and do a screenshot of that screen so I'll remember that password and everything there. And I'm going to highlight this password and copy it. It says Gallery 3, save this information in a safe place. Start using Gallery. Click on this link. Congratulations on choosing Gallery to host your photos. You're going to have a great experience. First things first, you've logged in this admin account. You should change your password to something that you'll remember. So I'm going to click Change Password and Email Now. I'm going to go ahead and put in here another password, a real email address, English, leave everything else as is. Okay. And this icon right here called Gallery, this is the one I'm talking about in week 11 where it says on step 3 to change a photo album, banners, or icons with Pixlr. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. And if I right click on this image, it'll actually show me the path here of this image. I'm going to view it. It's in the week 11 LIB images, and it's called logo.png. I'm going to actually use that file and edit it for this example. All right. And htdocs, class, week 11, LIB, images, logo. Okay, there's the logo. I'm just going to real quickly show you how easy it is to use this Pixlr. Anybody used Pixlr before? I don't know if a few of you might have. No? It's real easy. It's got layering and everything just like Photoshop has. I'm going to go ahead and put in here just something real simple. I'm going to put in here CBK. Put a color, different color maybe. And I'm going to change the background to different web color here. A little darker green. Okay, I'm going to add a bevel on this one. It's going to be an outer bevel. And let's bring the size down to 2. There we go. I'm going to save this as a PNG file. Overwrite the existing one that's in there. And by the way, on Pixlr, if you look on the overhead, when I hit save, I can actually change the format to a PXD format. If you're familiar with Photoshop, it saves it as a PSD format. Pixlr will open up a native PSD file from Photoshop, and you can edit it with layers. Okay, so I'm going to save it as a PXD layered format, meaning I can take this to any web browser and edit this again. And I'm actually, the way I do it on these image galleries or anything images, when I'm manipulating it, I'll actually put the PXD file in the same folder of the original PNG file that I'm using. That way, if I want to later change it, I don't have to be hunting for it in different places. Okay, so I've edited that logo. Now let's go back and let's refresh that page. Class week 11. Refresh El Mesho. There it is. There's my new logo. And I can actually come over here now and start adding. Let me add a album. I'm going to put RVC album and create it. I'm going to add some photos. 20 meg max file for the photos. And I'm going to bring in here some images. Let's do find some RVC images in here. Here we go. Here's an RVC image. There's an RVC image. And you can just do a command click on a Mac or control click on a PC. There's my images. They're uploading. Done. There's my gallery. And if I log off of this gallery, go back as a normal user. There's my gallery I just added. I can hit the play button. It'll do a full screen play mode with that gallery and go through a slideshow here in a second of that gallery from the first image to the last image. Taking forever to load here. Let's go back that way. Also do it this way. So that's the gallery image. Pretty simple, right? There's other stuff you can do too on the administrative side. When you log in, you can change the footer stuff here on the CSS. You can go down here and change this if you want to. You can also add in RSS feeds. You can add separate tags to the pictures as you bring them in. The administrative side of it's pretty simple. I would recommend when you do create this one to immediately change the password and email so you won't forget. And I just wanted to show you some of the gallery administration stuff you can do on let's go to settings advanced. Here's where you can actually go in and you can set access permissions. Right now it's set to everybody, but I can change it to certain groups if I wanted to, if I set up certain groups. The credit information, if you want to get rid of that, you get rid of that here. The powered by, you know, you could do powered by RVC. And dynamically saves this as you are working on it. There is no save button on this screen, I believe. Then if you want to go into maintenance mode while you're working on it, you just click on maintenance. And it does have some turn on maintenance mode option while you're running. It says here you have one of the photos is out of date. I have one of the photos. I can hit run here and it'll upload any photos that might be out of date and clean up any tags. There we go. Go back. There's that powered by RVC I changed at the bottom from whatever the default was. So pretty cool. They have different themes too you can apply to it. But literally within 5 minutes you can have it set up and playing with. And it's real versatile. I've used it in a lot of websites. It's real easy to use and real easy to manage, to hand off to someone if you were to create a site for someone, for them to be able to manage a site. You know, after you give it to them, they can upload as many pictures they want to. And it just works. And it's real simple to use. So what do you think? Gallery. Pretty cool, right? Huh?
It's changed a lot.
Yeah, they've upgraded in the last year and a half to where it's a lot better, a lot easier to use. They even have some themes you can go out and find too. Or if you like to play with CSS, you can actually play with CSS within that as well. So you can, I mean, that's the default one I want you to use this week and play with. If you want to use another one, that's fine. But this one, I would say, is probably the best one out of all of them that's in there, the example ones I gave you. And so once you play with that, get it created, throw in a few photos, you can just submit that zip file to me. If you want to play with the external, I'd say don't worry about it because you're going to be probably putting a gallery like this in your final site. And on your final site note, once you get this finished, which shouldn't take 10 minutes to create, once you sit down and create it, if you didn't already create tonight while you're sitting here, is begin working on your final site and putting together the navigation, what type of content you're going to have, and be thinking about that this week. And that way, starting next week, you can begin full-blown working on your final site. Questiones. I do have a comment on the final site. If you're planning on using this final site as a production site sometime in the near future, it might be a good idea to go ahead and buy a domain through GoDaddy to purchase that, get that out of the way, and they're dirt cheap to purchase. And you can even buy hosting as low as like $5 a month through GoDaddy as well, if you want to go that route. There's other hosting out there. GoDaddy's not perfect, but customer service wise, I've been pretty pleased with them. I've got probably 10 sites of my own, and then I've probably put together in the last 5 years here at Rock Valley, get 20 sites for local businesses and folks at Rock Valley. So, having any issues with it personally? If I call them and have an issue, they fix it. If I email them, they fix it. And so, since you're developing in PHP, I would recommend getting a Linux PHP host package, which again, you can buy your domain, and your first month domain costs for hosting for probably about $20. $20 first month. That would include the cost of your domain and the first month's hosting fees for a low-end host site. And then thereafter, about $5 a month. So, okay. So if you're going to use this as production, you're going to be doing web developing, which I guess most of you are. You wouldn't be here, some form or fashion. It's always a good idea to have a production site to play with, even though you might not be posting it anywhere for people to see. It's something that you play with and manipulate. Because the great thing about having a hosted site on GoDaddy is they do have, like on the low end package, you can have up like to 30 SQL servers on that package. And so you have no limitations like you have now with the free sites, which you do have limitations on that. And so if you're into WordPress, they have built-in WordPress components you can install, which I just did recently for local business. So any type of plugins like that you want to use, PHP related, they have already built into a Linux host package. I definitely recommend that. So, questions on the image gallery, questions on your final site. So next 2 weeks, optioni. Optioni is not a word, I just made it up. If you want to be here the next 2 weeks, if you need help, let me know, or let me know, show up and I'll be here. If you do need help and you don't want to come to class, but you want to just email me and say, hey, do you have this example I'm wanting to include? I'll give you an example, okay? With that said, go watch the game. Exactly, just started, so.
Another good photo gallery is Coppermine.
What is it, yeah. What's the name, Coppermine? Yeah, Coppermine is a good one. Coppermine used to be better than Gallery.
Well, Coppermine kind of fell off the face, then they come back. And I don't use the browser, to me it's kind of a.
Yeah, Coppermine, I totally agree with you. It used to be really, really cool, kept up, but the last couple of years it's.
The version 3 now. I don't know,
I haven't used it in probably 2 years, so I'll take your word for it on the Coppermine.
I put it out on my host.
Oh, did you? Cool.
Well, it's in gallery, so I downloaded 3 of them.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Uber Gallery,
What is it?
Uber Gallery link.
Goop, yeah. That one's, I mean, it's okay. It's
Something you like.
It's okay to play with, I guess.